yo, you might want to chill with that because that ain't right. And actually, you might make people like me look bad. Why are we going to the victims of these types of things rather than some of the culprits of these types of things? One more piece here was because this guy apparently, we assume it's the same guy because the name is the same. He apparently publishes his own books, the one who was pushing back on AOC, and these popped up somewhere. One of them is How to Avoid, this is one of the big red flags, How to Avoid False Accusations of Rape, Self-Defense in the Feminist State, because that's where these accusations come from. Also another one, Women of the Klan, Foundations of Modern Feminism. And oddly, some of these folks who like to talk about where feminism is done to folks and how it's associated with the Klan here, support people that support the Klan. Just gonna point that out for you guys. And one more, rape hysteria, lying with rape statistics, female sex predators. Yo, just calm down, live your life, eat some dinner, and try and think of a way to approach humans without thinking about it's all about you being this victim all the time. But still, it'll never change. It's all selling.
Yeah, I mean, allow people to speak their truth. Like this idea that AOC could not be telling the truth about her own experience of dealing with men who were creepy or, obviously immoral and trying to hit on young women. I don't know why you need to jump out the window with that. Like your personal experience might be that, yeah, you didn't talk to little kids when you became an adult, and bravo, good for you. You're a decent citizen in that regard. You get a gold sticker for that, but that doesn't mean that this stuff doesn't exist. And to imply that it doesn't, I think is quite naive and stupid, to be real, because we do fetishize youth a lot 100%. In our pop culture. And just look, I happen to be really close with somebody who works at a major social media company, and a big part of their effort is curtailing this kind of stuff on the internet from people reaching out to younger people, even though they're way older. This is not fake. This is real.
Absolutely. And again, if you actually stop and pay attention, you've seen it. Trust me, you've seen it. You've heard it. Yep. Some of that happening. You talk about the fetishizing of the youth. Think about how when we just see a celebrity, this is common. This isn't something that's specific to, whatever conservatives may be trying to hide or some of that stuff. It's so common. Think about how when you see an actress that starts and she's like 14, and then there's this countdown until she's an adult. It happens all the time. And it's very open. People are like, oh, I can't wait till she's 18. What are you going to do when she's 18? And why are you waiting until she's 18? This famous person that wants nothing to do with you and doesn't know that you exist. But still, we have this weird thought process to follow after young folks and wait until they're old enough for you to have these disgusting thoughts about. It's the weirdest thing in the world, but we've normalized it to the point where when people say, hey, yo, that's not cool, they go, look at you back in this feminist agenda. Yeah, you look like the bad guy. You're the bad guy. So these red flags are popping up all over the place. And, I guess they're not really worried about it because we don't do anything about it. We have a couple minutes left. I'm curious what you guys have been saying about all this stuff, specifically some of the things that's been going through some of these stories that AOC had to tell and other folks that were talking about it as well. Let's see what we have. Oh, no, we got more love for Waz. Oh, here it is. This is Ensign Mariner Effin, the same one that came in earlier. Was. OMG, now my crush is bigger. It's physical too, but I didn't want to be a creep. Okay, we're towing the line, but you know what? I asked for it. We requested it, and you followed up. TYT, remember really fast. I want to talk to some of you guys. M. St. Clair, 1962, says, this is back on the stuff going on with these shootings. Sorry for the sad switch here. I'm from Kentucky, and A.G. Cameron is a typical GOP zealot. He was one pushing the abortion ban. He also let Breonna Taylor's killers off the hook. I remember his face from that. That's what I was trying to remember when I first saw him. He's horrible, and I'm ashamed to claim him and all of our representatives for that matter. Not surprised that he sends thoughts and prayers. Did he send those? I mean, they're trying to avoid that line now because they know it's become a little bit more pointed out how meaningless it is to them every time they utter it. But his was, hey, let's congratulate the law enforcement that showed up after the massacre happened. And congratulations. I'm glad that they were there. Let's maybe make sure they don't have to do it next time. That's it, you guys. We're done with this show. Thank you for being with us, Waz. Also, thank you guys for being with us on this day. Trust me, you guys, I'm looking for a little bit more lighthearted, maybe chill things. We'll try to get in tomorrow. But until then, go check out the Young Turks, Anna Kasperi and Jake Huger. We'll see you guys on Wednesday.
Woo! It's
Turks, Cenk Uygur, Anna Kasparian with you guys on a lovely afternoon in America.
It's so warm outside.
Okay, well, that's easy for us to say in LA, although it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy. The last 3 months in LA have been cold and raining.
Yep.
So anyways, all right, much love, guys. We got a ton of show for you guys. Some controversies along the way. Let's have some fun.
I don't know how fun you might find this, but let's do it.
We need to prepare for war against China. I don't mean go to war. I don't mean initiate a war. But they are preparing for war. We are completely unprepared as a nation psychologically. We are completely unprepared economically and immigration-wise and securing our border. This is what we put up with. It's absolutely unbelievable. That's it. I'm done.
That animated guy, who certainly looks like he's ill-prepared psychologically, is conservative talk show host Mark Levin, who got a round of applause on Sean Hannity's show from Sean Hannity's live in studio audience. I guess that's a thing now on his show. Yeah. Anyway, as he was calling for not necessarily a direct war with China right now. He claims we just need to prepare for war with China. So
yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah, so more warmongering rhetoric coming from right-wing talk show hosts. And he's just one of many right-wingers, which include people like Steve Bannon, who are very much in favor of drumming up war with China, which is ill-advised. I'll explain why in just a minute. Cenk.
That's weird. I thought the right wing was against war, and that's why people like Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard were supporting them. It seems like they're massively in favor of war. By the way, when you prepare, should you prepare defenses? Of course, you should always have defenses, right? But when you prepare for war, a lot of times you get war because of what you're doing. You're pushing forward, you're militarizing, you're antagonizing, etc. But I want to just say, we do $850 billion a year for the defense budget, but we're not psychologically prepared?
No, it's no. He also later will claim that the military isn't getting the resources it needs. We're gonna debunk that. We've got the receipts. But before we do, why don't we hear more from his hysterical rant?
China hasn't built the biggest navy on the face of the earth, military islands in the South China Sea, over 20 different kinds in our hemisphere, a deep water naval base in Somalia, where my great uncle fought on Guadalcanal. You have China with a base on the western coast of Africa facing us, killer satellites, nuclear missiles. You think they're building all that to defeat Taiwan? They're building all that to defeat us. They're not going to be satisfied with Taiwan.
No evidence of that whatsoever, but it's meant to instill fear in the viewers, to make them think that China's coming for us, it's not gonna stop with Taiwan. Again, not a shred of evidence proving that. Also, what do you think the United States is doing, has been doing for many, many decades in regard to building up its military capabilities? And is he alleging that China has built its military capability to an extent that it has surpassed the United States? Because that would be a lie as well.
Yeah, so they have satellites, they have nuclear missiles, they have a couple of bases across the world. What do you think we have? We have more satellites, more nuclear missiles, and way more bases across the world.
We're ill-prepared, Cenk.
So we're not psychologically prepared though. Okay, if we spend another $850 billion on his defense contractor friends, then all of a sudden we might be psychologically prepared.
Does that guy look psychologically prepared for anything?
Come on, dude, his head looks like a naval base that we've got off the coast of Africa, okay? So, but anyways, but the thing that I get it. This is old school conservatives.
This is a neocon.
Exactly, and Mark Levin has always been a neocon. He loved the Iraq war, and he now wants to start more wars. But right-wing populists, where are you? Where are you? I thought you guys were against war. So do you love Mark Levin or do you hate Mark Levin? Hey, Tucker Carlson, you pretend to be against war. There's Mark Levin on your network saying, "Well, you gotta go war war in China, like a freaking lunatic.
So look, this is a little bit different from the lead up to the war in Iraq, because in the lead up to that preemptive war in Iraq, the Bush administration was lying to the American people about how, Iraq has weapons of mass destruction and they're a real threat, an imminent threat to the United States. And that's how they decided to drum up support for that illegal war. I mention that because that is exactly what Mark Levin is doing. It's a little different because it's not the actual government doing it, but if we had a right-wing executive branch right now, would they be parroting that talking point, that ridiculous, unfounded talking point that China is preparing for a hot war with the United States? I mean, and look, to be sure, the Biden administration has used a lot of hawkish rhetoric in response to China, in regard to China. And I find that problematic as well, because we should be de-escalating to the best of our ability. I think a lot of this is driven by economic competition and the fact that China's doing or growing economically much faster than expected. We help them do that by shipping our jobs over to China to exploit cheap labor. And now, oh my gosh, what did we do? All of a sudden, they're becoming more and more of a hegemonic force. With all of that said, I do want to go to the last clip featuring Levin, because this is where he tries to make the case that our military, under-resourced.
Our military is not prepared in the sense that they're pushing this woke ideology. Our military budgets do not reflect the threats that we are facing in the world around us. I want to say it again, so the backbenchers regurgitate it. We must prepare for war against China, not because we want war, not because we're going to cause war, but because they want war. They've only communicated it 10,000 different ways, whether it's violating our airspace, navigable waters, threatening our ships, threatening our country, threatening our people. What else can they do short of attacking? They're not going to be satisfied with Taiwan. This is a big damn deal.
This is a big damn deal. I do not feel threatened by the Chinese government. I have never felt that they have threatened me or the American people. When Levin mentions how they like violated our airspace, I'm assuming he's referring to the surveillance balloon.
Yeah, the one balloon, and then we shot down a whole bunch of balloons that weren't theirs, right?
Including we showed them.
Yeah, a couple of kids' balloons. But so look, there's two things that I like there. Number one, the lies that he made up. They're threatening our ships. Really? That would have been fairly large news if China said, you know what, we're going to sink one of your ships. That would have been gigantic news, right? They're threatening our country. When? When did China threaten to attack us? You're nonstop threatening to attack them on national television, on America, on the largest cable news station. That we see very clearly. We have not seen Chinese state government. We have not seen their state media. We've not seen anyone calling for an attack against America. So Mark Levin is a liar. He's lying so that his friends who are defense contractors can get billions of dollars more and stuff it into their pockets and rob the American people. No. And he's, they're threatening our people. Again, lie after lie after lie to start wars, because that's what right-wingers do. But that's the second part. He said, I'm gonna repeat this so that the backbenchers can regurgitate it. So right-wing populists who are anti-war, go ahead, regurgitate his talking points like a bitch. Okay. Go ahead, he's telling you. Go ahead, go back to being pro-war. Go ahead. Or do you disagree? No, you can't disagree with a right winger, right? Bow your heads.
So a few things that I want to draw a distinction of. So it's nuanced. China is not posing a threat to the United States, at least in terms of starting a hot war. Now, is there some reason to believe that China could be making moves to take over Taiwan? There is some evidence to that. Okay, so for instance, Levin's remarks came on the third day of Chinese military drills that have been taking place pretty close to Taiwan. Taiwan, of course, is self-governing, but China does not want it to be autonomous. And so there is some concern that China eventually will invade and take control. That is different from China posing an imminent threat or any real national security risk to the United States. I also want to address a few other things, including the military funding. His argument about, our military is ill-prepared, they're woke. I don't know what that means. He needs to be specific, because just slapping the woke label on everything that you don't like makes zero sense and is not a strong argument. But in terms of military funding, let's look at this first graph that shows you how year after year military spending has gone up. Okay, so there was a little bit of a dip during the Obama administration, but that didn't last long. And if you want exact numbers, let's go to the next graphic, where you will see that especially beginning in 2017, right? So we raised the military budget in 2017 from $639 billion to $646 billion. And then every consecutive year after that, consistently, Congress appropriates more and more money for the defense budget. So how many billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars, do we need to reach $1 trillion for Mark Levin and all of the other military contractors to feel prepared for a potential war with China, which we should do everything and anything to avoid? Okay, that should be the real objective here. But of course they don't want that. They want to drum up war with any country if it's financially beneficial for the defense contractors. The United States has also been selling military weapons to China's adversaries. And if the United States is selling weapons to places like Japan and Australia, you might get a little concerned about that. You might want to make sure you, as the Chinese government and the Chinese military, are prepared in case the United States does something.
Yeah, so look, unfortunately, politics in America is black and white. So here we're gonna do nuance no matter what anybody thinks. Number one, we don't think the Chinese government are good guys, okay? So could they have bad intent towards Taiwan? Of course. Do they have bad intents toward the Uyghur Muslims that they have in concentration camps? Of course, right? Is it basically a dictatorship? Yes. Does that mean we should start World War III? No, it does not mean that, okay? So if you're China, you might be a bad guy in regards to the concentration camps, etc. But as you see weapons popping up in Japan, Taiwan is surrounding you, right? What would you do if it was us? We saw weapons of our people who keep saying we're the enemy, right? And all of a sudden they're funding missiles in Canada and Mexico and Cuba. Oh, right, even just Cuba, we nearly started World War III.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And Jake, it's important for you guys to know the specific details. We're not just pulling this out of, whatever. Japan, for instance, an adversary to China, announced its plan to embark on a 5-year, $320 billion military buildup to secure offensive strike capacity amid growing regional tensions. Japan faces the severest and most complicated national security environment since the end of World War II, according to the new blueprint unveiled by the Prime Minister of Japan. It's a more conservative government, which named China as the biggest strategic challenge, followed by North Korea. Where do you think they're buying the weapons from? They're buying the weapons from the United States. Of course, the US is happy to oblige. Japan plans to buy long-range weapons capable of striking China, including hundreds of Lockheed Martin's Tomahawk land attack missiles and joint air-to-surface standoff missiles, a boon for one of the biggest players in the powerful US arms industry, which is already poised to rake in hundreds of billions of dollars in public money following Congress's passage of an $858 billion military budget for this fiscal year, 2023. And that's not all. Same goes for Australia. Apparently the US announced its plans to deploy up to 6 nuclear-capable B-52 bombers to northern Australia, where they would be close enough to strike China. So if you are the leader of China, if you are part of the Chinese government, and all the US is making all these moves, all your adversaries are building up their military capability, what do you think you're gonna wanna do? So it's right now, it's really like an arms race. It's a bit of a Cold War, and we wanna prevent it from devolving into a hot war that's gonna get innocent people killed.
Yeah, so look, I keep getting in the face of the right wingers. Steve Bannon had similar comments about how we have to be ready for World War III. So if you disagree with Mark Levin and Steve Bannon, say it. You guys aren't usually shy right wingers, right? So, and make up your mind. Are you against World War III? like the Jimmy Dores of the world who kissed Tucker Carlson's ass and right-wing ass because he claims that they're against war. Now it looks like they're pushing for World War III. So are you against it or are you for it? Which one is it? We've been clear all along. We're against the war. We don't want World War III against Russia or China. And why do the right wings? One of our members just made this comment, great comment. So the right wingers are like, we can't arm Ukraine, the poor Russians.
Such a great
Plus,
point.
we don't want World War III. That's ridiculous. Oh, Taiwan, let's go arm the living crap out of them so we can go have World War III with a larger power, China. Well, how does that make any consistent sense at all? It doesn't. Guys, you're getting played. You're getting played by the same guys, the defense contractors, and you're gonna funnel more money to them, and you're gonna start more wars and get more people killed.
All right, well, since we're doing a foreign policy related block, why don't we move on to the Pentagon leak? US intelligence officials are now trying to do some damage control after a leak of Pentagon documents. We'll tell you what the documents contained in just a moment, but I think it's important to learn about the developments in regard to how these leaks came about in the first place. Now, we don't know exactly who leaked the documents. There is already a full-blown Justice Department investigation into this. The leaked documents revealed confidential information about the war in Ukraine, as well as intel that the United States gathered on its own allies. Again, more details on that in just a moment. But to make matters even more embarrassing for the State Department, The Guardian recently reported that this leak had been traced back to a Discord server about video games and YouTubers. So here's what we know. And this is, in my opinion, a little bit fluid and subject to change. So this is what we know so far, but don't get mad at us as the facts might change a little bit in coming days, right? This is just the initial reporting on the leak. So The Guardian cites open source intelligence analysts as its source for the report. The report explains that before the leaked documents were made known to the general public, they were circulating around several private Discord servers, the first of which was called Thug Shaker Central. Okay. So one intelligence analyst who spoke to The Guardian said this, quote, posts and channel listings show that the server's users were interested in video games, music, Orthodox Christianity, and fandom for the popular YouTuber Oxide, who has a military-themed YouTube channel. This server was not especially geopolitical in nature, although its users had a staunchly conservative stance on several issues, members told Bellingcat. Now, racial slurs and racist memes were shared widely. So
of course.
Gives you, I mean, it's, yeah.
Of course, they already said it was conservative.
Okay, so posts and channel listings show that the server's users were interested in video games, music, Orthodox Christianity, you get the point. So the server was not especially geopolitical in nature, just want to reiterate that. Now, according to the report, the documents were leaked when one server member posted them to win an argument about the war in Ukraine. After that, the leaked documents started circling around a few other private Discords, including a Minecraft theme one before leaking to 4chan. So before we pivot to the contents of these leaked documents, any thoughts on the way this was leaked?
Yeah, so first of all, I gotta give you guys a little bit of a clarification. So we show videos every once in a while. Those are randos playing video games. That's not who it was leaked to, okay, just to be clear. So now in terms of how they did the leak, well, it seems like it's a right winger who did the leak. It's leaking to right-wing Discord channel. I don't know what Minecraft has to do with it, but that's kind of a fun angle. But if it has anything to do with 4chan, it's mental right-wingers. So now, is the substance correct? I don't know, right? I mean, I've never seen the right wing be correct about anything, but we don't really know who the source is.
We don't know who the source is. The DOJ, along with the State Department, is furious about this, and they're now engaging in a pretty, in an investigation. They want to find out who leaked it. Because that's the one thing that like the State Department will not stand for, right? If you ever embarrass them on their conduct or things like this, them spying on allies and committing war crimes, they won't, self-reflect and maybe reconsider whether committing war crimes makes sense. They'll just get mad at the leaker.
Yeah, and so I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm saying. Look, am I surprised that there might be war crimes that we committed? Not at all, not at all. So like it doesn't, like the substance might be completely right. We have no idea like why they chose to put it on a right-wing platform, etc. But we do know that Minecraft has relocated to Russia to avoid prosecution.
Okay, but don't say things like that because I don't want anyone to think you're being serious.
Okay, I got you. But guys, there's a good reason why people are worried about it because they chased Edward Snowden out of the country.
Right.
They imprisoned and tortured Chelsea Manning. So the American government is brutal when you embarrass them and show
Julian Assange, another example.
Julian Assange for sure. If you actually do real journalism that challenges power, and again, if it's true, I don't care if it comes from the right, the left, I don't care at all, right? But if you do that, you're in a world of trouble because if there's one thing the American government despises, it's journalism.
So what's in the leaks? That's the question, right? And I don't trust very many sources to do good reporting on these kinds of topics, but I do trust Democracy Now! Amy Goodman had a pretty good segment on this. Let's watch.
Concerning the war in Ukraine, the leaked documents suggest Ukraine has little chance of militarily defeating Russia. One document from February predicted that Ukraine's, quote, ability to provide medium-range air defense to protect the front lines will be completely reduced by May 23rd. The leaked documents also predicted the fighting between Ukraine and Russia in the Donbas region, quote, is likely heading toward a stalemate. Another document indicates members of Ukraine's security services were responsible for sabotaging a Russian plane inside Belarus in late February. The documents also appear to indicate U.S. intelligence agencies had deeply penetrated the Russian military, giving the Biden administration internal information about Russian war plans in Ukraine, as well as operational plans for the private mercenary group Wagner in Africa. The Washington Post reports one leaked document reveals the Wagner group sought to purchase arms from Turkey, a NATO ally. Documents also show that Egypt, a close U.S. ally, secretly planned to produce 40,000 rockets for Russia.
I mean, that's a lot of tea. In fact, there's additional details that have been reported that you should know about, including the fact that there are NATO boots on the ground in Ukraine. So the leaked documents also indicate, one document dated March 23rd refers to the presence of a small number of Western special forces operating inside Ukraine without specifying their activities or location. The UK has the largest contingent, 50, followed by Latvia, 17, France, 15, and the United States, 14. And the Netherlands, they have sent one NATO member to Ukraine.
So look, it sounds believable. So, some in mainstream media hype Ukraine as if like they're about to take over Russia, right? No. So the fact that they're not quote unquote winning, but kind of in a stalemate, least surprising news I've ever heard. They try to sabotage a Russian fighter. Least surprising news I've ever heard. Oh wow, it's in Belarus. Look, I get that he could drag more things into it, but if you think that the Ukrainians, the Americans, the Russians aren't all operating in other countries against one another, you're nuts. You just don't know this stuff at all, right? And so I'm not surprised. Oh, we infiltrated the Russian military. Well, I hope to God we did. Right? The Russians are trying to infiltrate us, or the Chinese. By the way, including our allies. Israel often tries to infiltrate us. We do the reverse back to them, right? So every time people pretend that we're like pure as the driven snow and we would never spy on the Russians. Are you kidding? I mean, I think they should be fired if they're not spying on the Russians, right? So yeah, that's their job. I get it. The only part that's problematic, again, I'm not surprised by it, but it's problematic, is the NATO forces that are on the ground in Ukraine.
They're also spying on Zelensky too. It's not just Russia that they've
Of course we're spying on Zelensky, of course we are. Come on guys, please don't be this naive, right? Like whatever the merit of this story, I would be shocked if it wasn't happening, even if the story isn't true, right? So, and by the way, you can tell from the reaction that it might be more likely to be true because
Kirby is losing his mind.
Exactly, that gives you the sense that like, okay, well, something that looked like not that credible on Minecraft, 4chan, these are like the least, Minecraft's fine. 4chan's the least credible thing in the world, right? But the State Department reaction to it makes you think, oh wow, Looks like they got a pretty good source.
The State Department has not given us any reason to believe that these leaked documents are a hoax, okay? They are furious about this, which seems to confirm that these documents are very much real. What I raise a little bit of concern over is the reporting pertaining to how the leaked documents went into circulation in the first place. I don't know, it's just a gut feeling. I have no evidence to provide for why I feel that way. It's just a gut instinct. But we'll see how that part of the story develops. But to be quite honest with you, that part of the story is less interesting to me and less important to me than what the actual leaked documents contain. And they do contain a lot of damning information. A few other things I wanted to quickly mention, including our relationship with Israel. It's really interesting when you hear our politicians and the executive branch talk about Israel overtly. But behind the scenes, the document titled Israel, Pathways to Providing Lethal Aid to Ukraine, says Jerusalem will likely consider providing lethal aid under increased US pressure or perceived degradation in its relationship with Russia. And in addition to that, we were spying on Israel, okay? So one document reveals that the United States had also been spying on Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian president. That is unsurprising, said a source close to Zelensky, but Ukrainian officials are deeply frustrated about the leak.
Yeah, so again, only people who are mainstream media reporters or incredibly naive would be surprised by any of this. Of course, we spy on everybody, including our allies, right? And the part that nobody talks about Israel, in regards to Israel, is how we use them as an ally. Like if you're looking at it from the outside, you think like, what does Israel ever do for us? Like we give them billions of dollars, we gave them Iron Dome. Okay, that's all good. That means Israel's protected. But then they turn around and never listen to us about the Palestinians, the settlements, any like encroachment. And so you name it, they never do anything for us, right? But what you don't know is behind the scenes, every once in a while when we need dirty work, our CIA, our intelligence guys goes to Israel and go, hey, you wanna do the dirty work for us?
Yep.
And so that's the part that they don't say out loud. And by the way, probably the #1 reason they're most pissed about these leaks, because that's the stuff that's super sensitive. But again, I wanna finish the thought on the NATO troops inside Ukraine. The reason why I point that out as the most dangerous of these revelations is, if the Russians drop a bomb and it lands on NATO soldiers, then I don't want our side going, oh, well, that's it. They killed a guy from Netherlands and a guy from the US. That's it, we got to go to World War III. No. If you're going to put soldiers inside Ukraine, that's on you, that's not on the Russians.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we will talk about a pretty hot button issue that will just come back. We'll see you in a few.
Documents.
All right, back to a social break here. I'm gonna read a comment not having to do with the news that we've covered so far, but Shan McAndrew with an interesting point about something that was going on Twitter, and very generous, Shan, we appreciate it. But he partly disagrees, I think. Let me read it. To Cenk and Anna, yeah, he says right in the beginning, I respectfully disagree with your recent positions. They're valid, but the Twitter activity isn't constructive. I think you're not just angry about those positions, it's the fact that no positive change is happening fast enough. I want to help in any way because I believe in you. Shane, I appreciate it, brother. Even if you disagree and then you're helping, God, I love you for it. I love you for it. There's nothing wrong with disagreement, okay? The things that's happening on Twitter, one of the things that set me off, honestly, is a whole bunch of folks claiming that they speak for people they don't speak for. They just don't. So the left doesn't agree with what Twitter leftists say. The polling shows it. I'm clearly correct, okay? And so then people come in and go like, oh, let me educate you on the correct opinion because my 13 buddies on the left on Twitter agree with me. No, not gonna do it, okay? So it's not being stubborn, it's just telling you things that are honest and true. So sorry, there's nothing wrong with disagreement. There's something wrong with saying you're not allowed to say that because that goes against orthodoxy, and we will now enforce orthodoxy. If you're looking for orthodoxy, you've come to the wrong place. What we do here at TYT is we think for ourselves. We think independently. We don't go, oh my God, look at the leftist or rightist opinion. I will now follow it like a lemming. Sorry, we don't do it. So, but anyway, Shane, thank you for respectfully disagreeing. Thank you for still believing. Let's go fight on the things that we, together on the things that we agree on, which is 99.95% of stuff. Okay, but if people say, no, we're gonna try to cancel you. Have at it, Hoss. See how it turns out for you. Okay, now let's go to YouTube members. Let's 100 Johans writes in. Is there? No, sorry. I'm gonna skip that one because I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Sorry. Michael Malabon says, on a much lighter note, Bart is really diverse with his beats.
Hell yeah, he is.
Thank you very much. David Flores wonders, this is the one I thought was 100, sorry. Considering the timing, I wonder if this is a plan, just enough of truth to make it believable, but areas of important info are changed. Yeah, sounds fishy. David, I really don't know. I really don't know about the change. Anyway, Stereo Dragon Daddy 6 says.
But can I just pause for a second and also respond to that? I like your skepticism. I think that's healthy and that's a good thing.
God bless, okay. All right, we'll be back in a minute. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, but also Kat and James Wolgamuth. James and Kat, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining. You can do likewise by hitting the join button below the video on YouTube or go to tyt.com/join. We do this show together. We love you guys. Casper.
All right. Former NCAA swimmer Riley Gaines says that she was assaulted on the campus of San Francisco State University, where she was invited by Turning Point USA and the Leadership Institute to speak about her views opposing transgender athletes in women's sports. Now, she was, again, a former NCAA swimmer. She competed against a transgender athlete by the name of Leah Thomas. And Gaines felt that the inclusion of Leah Thomas was unfair. Now, she tied 5th place, Gaines did, in the 2022 NCAA Swimming and Diving Championships. In March of 2022, Leah Thomas became the first openly transgender athlete to win an NCAA Division I national championship in any sport after winning the women's 500-yard freestyle with a time of 4 minutes, 33 seconds. Olympic silver medalist Emma Weyant was the second person to win at, I think she was 1 second too late, I guess. I mean, these competitions are incredible. Like, these are incredibly fast swimmers, you get the point. But anyway, this has been a controversial issue to say the least. And so Gaines was invited by Turning Point USA, an organization that we have been very critical of on this show. So we see what's happening here, to go onto this campus. Yes, I acknowledge it is a campus located in San Francisco, an incredibly left-wing part of the country. And this is provocative. I totally understand that. I mean, and her Twitter profile is also, I think, meant to be somewhat provocative. Mentions that she's a spokeswoman with Independent Women's Forum and that there are only 2 sexes. Now, Gaines was in fact accosted by trans rights activists after giving her speech. And I want to be clear, there were trans rights activists or people who disagreed with her in the room as she was doing her talk, and they were incredibly respectful. Even though they engaged in protest as well, I think they did it right. But what you're about to see is what I think is incredibly counterproductive for anyone who actually gives a damn about transgender rights in this country. Let's watch.
Yeah, you transphobic bitch, I see you. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights.
Full respect, 60 down. I got 60 down.
So after that, Gaines had to be escorted by campus police into a safe room where she remained barricaded for literally 3 hours. There's documentation proving that, which we'll get to in just a moment. In fact, she couldn't leave the room until members of the San Francisco Police Department showed up to escort her out of that barricaded room and to safety. She says that campus police did nothing to help her get out of the room that she was barricaded in, although in the video you can clearly see that they escorted her to that barricaded room as that mob of students were going after her. Now, documentation again does prove that she was barricaded for 3 hours. So Golden Gate Express tweeted out a thread, kind of documenting key moments of this whole incident. So Riley Gaines has been escorted out of the event into a side hallway in the HSS building. Students were following through Trans Women Are Women, and then there's a timestamp, 8:31 p.m. is when that happened. The next tweet that's relevant at 11:21 p.m., SFPD announced that those who stay to protest are now unlawfully congregating and will be arrested if they refuse to disperse. And then finally at 11:38 p.m., Riley Gaines left the campus. So clearly from 8:30 to 11:30, 3 hours, she was in fact barricaded in that room as people were outside saying some pretty terrible things. And it was threatening. If you're someone who's barricaded in a room and there's people outside who are screaming at you and they're that animated, it could be intimidating to say the least. I do want to also just go to one more video showing that some members of that group floated the possibility of Gaines paying a ransom if she wants to be let go. Let's watch.
Tell her to pay us. Tell her to pay us and then she could go. $10 each. Because she might get paid for this, so we could get paid for it too.
Now, it's worth noting that there were trans rights activists in the room as she was giving her talk. And I want to show you what I think a productive protest looks like. Let's watch.
You go, they honor you, they name their Woman of the Year. And so I went to this convention, it was in January, it was in San Antonio. And so I go to the convention, obviously not in support because the award was immediately meaningless.
So they're holding up signs the whole time showing their support for the transgender community. There was also a Q&A portion where there was disagreement. They exchanged their comments, their disagreement with one another. I think that's productive. But what happened outside of that room, what happened for the 3 hours following her talk, not productive. I don't understand how anyone would think that this is gonna win over hearts and minds in any way.
Okay, so I know exactly where it went wrong, in my opinion. And so this is broken down in my opinion, to two very distinct protests. Now, it wasn't in real life. It moved fluidly, and it was generally speaking the same people. But let me tell you what I think went right and wrong. First of all, Riley Gaines, she's conservative, so I probably don't agree with a lot of her opinions. But I don't care if I agree or disagree with her opinions. Should she be allowed to speak? Of course, right? So the protest in the beginning was perfectly great. So they entered the room along with supporters. They stood in line, got their place. Nothing wrong with that. They asked her good questions, nothing wrong with that. They weren't supposed to make signs. They took flyers from TPUSA and made them into signs. Nothing wrong with that. The people outside are chanting trans rights are human rights. Nothing wrong with that. You go, you protest, you chant, everything's good, right? So this thing was almost a picture of like a pretty good exchange on a college campus in America, okay? But when she's leaving, you gotta let her go. You can't get in her way. That's, no, guys, that's terrible, okay? So here, let's talk it through. So number one, she says she was hit. I don't know, I didn't see it in any of the videos, but could she have been brushed, or hit or so? I don't know, it's certainly possible, given the mayhem that was happening there. But there's one thing we do know that is clear. The cops thought it was not safe for her physically to leave that room for 3 hours. That's not good, okay? And so, guys, chanting is one thing. It's not just like neutral. It's good. Chanting is good. Protest is good, right? But when somebody feels physically unsafe and you won't let her out, then you've lost the moral high ground. What'd you do that for, right? Think about it this way, guys. Shoe on the other foot. Imagine it's like right-wing protesters and they're chanting crazy stuff about trans people, and the person in there is a left-wing speaker, as trans speaker, right? And she's scared for her life in there, and the right-wingers are chanting, and the cops say to the trans activist, it's not safe to go outside, we're worried that they're gonna harm you, right? Now, what would our community, the left, say?
I mean, you know.
You know what we would say. Yeah. We would say those right-wingers are monsters. Let her out, right? So don't be hypocritical. Please, I'm begging you, I know it's so hard. We get into into individual camps, and no, everything on the left has to be right. Nope, everything on the right has to be right? No, that protest got out of hand the minute it felt that it became physically unsafe, right? Do not lose the moral high ground. You had everything right until then, please.
The thing that's frustrating about these situations is that these exchanges, if it's done appropriately without devolving into violence or intimidation, it could be productive, it could be persuasive. That's the way that you actually make progress. And I think the biggest mistake that trans rights activists make is just assuming that everyone already knows everything they need to know about transgender people and how they need to have their rights protected. But you gotta understand that for a lot of Americans, these are all new concepts. And so it takes time for them to learn these new things, to be accepting of new things. And I think this knee-jerk reaction of, oh, you're just a transphobe, you're a terrible person, I'm exhausted, it is not my job to educate you. Okay, well, understand that if that's your mindset, then you're never gonna win. You're just not. And if you think that you're gonna win by intimidating and bullying people, that's also not gonna work. That actually turns a lot of people off.
Yeah, if you're an activist or you're in this sphere in any way, and you say, well, it's not my job to educate you. Well, no, okay, it's not. But then you got to go home, because then you're not in this conversation, right? So like here, I'll use my example. When Muslims were attacked, and pre-Trump too, remember the Republicans had these giant hearings. Keith Ellison went and spoke eloquently, as only back then, I think the only Muslim American, I forget if Andre Carson was in already. And they were saying that, look, basically we're dangerous and we should be kicked out of the country. If I said at the time, I'm not even gonna cover it on the show, I don't have to explain it what Islam is to anyone. Well, how does that help? Well, they don't know about Islam. They didn't grow up Muslim. They don't know that instead what I did was I engaged in debate, 3 hours to Sam Harris, everyone on Twitter, Bill Maher, everybody else, right? And we got some people at least to realize, oh, Muslims are also human beings.
Can I actually jump in on an example that's actually very personal to me and to you, right? Mm-hmm. When I first started working here, Cenk, because of the Turkish bubble like he grew up in, didn't see my perspective on the Armenian genocide and the reality of it. Let's just keep it real, right? I could have just written Cenk off and be like, oh, he's a bad person. He's a bad person. He can't be saved. No, except we engaged in some pretty fierce debates. We engaged in uncomfortable discussion. But to me, it was worth it because I understand that most humans are good And most minds can be changed through persuasion, through understanding, through engaging in these exchanges. Now look, there are people out there who don't engage in good faith debate. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about ordinary people who are open-minded to some extent. And guess what? He changed his mind. And I think the transgender community, along with transgender activists, can do that. I just think some of their tactics turn a lot of people off, and they're totally blind to that, which amazes me.
Yeah, and in that case, I don't know that they were all trans activists. They might have been leftists, generally speaking, right? And guys, if you just don't lose the moral high ground. It doesn't help your cause at all. And if you say, I don't have to help my cause, people should already be on my side. You're not, okay, but they're not. So we gotta help to make sure we win elections so they don't pass all these terrible bills against trans people. They pass like hundreds and hundreds of bills against trans people, right? So we've got to find a way to convince the average person. Here, I'll give you the last example, guys. So for example, when you talk about sports and trans people participating in sports, I think it's an interesting and legitimate debate to talk about hormone blockers and how much of an effect they have on athletic ability.
Agreed, yeah.
Right, so when trans folks that are activists like Benny Carolla or anyone else makes that point, that's good. You're engaging, and a lot of people don't know that, okay? So that's great, do that, right? And that might change some minds. By the way, and then it's okay if the right winger or the moderate or whoever or the newbie or even me says, hey, you know what? I'm not sure I'm quite convinced yet, but let's keep talking about it, right? How much do the hormone blockers affect athletic performance? That's a legitimate debate.
Yeah, exactly.
When the right wingers say, oh, trans people are mentally ill and we should take away their rights, that is not a legitimate debate. We fight back ferociously on that, but politically and rhetorically, because they're gonna win on the politics of it and they're gonna keep passing those atrocious laws unless you convince a majority of Americans that you are right. And by the way, guys, we've been through this 100 times and we've been through it in TYT history. We were right about gay marriage, and what do? We fought and we fought and we fought, and we convinced America that we were right. Now I know they're retrenching a little bit, but overall, if you do it the right way, you can win, and we have won. And we're gonna win on this too, but not if you go over the line, then the right wing will have cause to be extreme in the opposite direction.
Final thing I'll say about this is we need to foster an environment that allows curious people to ask questions without fear of being labeled all sorts of atrocious things. Some people are genuinely curious. Some people don't know all the answers and want to ask questions. Simply asking the questions doesn't automatically make them bad faith actors who are just trying to trash the transgender community. I think when it comes to youth gender medicine, when it comes to transgender athletes, there are areas that I think are deserving of some debate among good faith actors, and we need to be open to those conversations and open to those debates. If we devolve into acts of violence or preventing people from being able to exercise their right in speaking, I think that it's only gonna do more harm than good. All right, we gotta take a quick break. When we come back, we've got more for you, including, this is probably my favorite story of the day. Elon Musk and Matt Taibbi have broken up. What happened? I'll tell you more when we come back.
Elon.
All right, back during the switch break. Lots of comments. Let's go to members section on TYT.com. Jerry Ty 429 says, I'm a gay man and a millennial in my mid-30s. I can't imagine how counterproductive online echo chambers would be if social media existed in my teenage years when the majority of the public was still learning how to embrace same-sex relationships. Well, boy, Jerry, I love you for saying that. That's exactly right, right? It doesn't mean you don't fight. It means you fight productively.
Strategically.
And strategically, and we're not in the moderate establishment camp. Well, like, oh, when I have enough donors, I'll move my position. No. You fight as aggressively as you can, politically and rhetorically, but don't cross the line because it's counterproductive to our interests. Okay, Kid tested, Politburo approved. You wrote a very long message about how you disagree with me, and Shane wrote a similar one that I read. So I'll just say this, okay? I love you, and it's okay. And if you disagree, it's okay. If you want to leave, that's okay. Okay. Thank you for being a member all this time. I appreciate it. But what you're, in my opinion, what your misunderstanding is, and what you have maybe you didn't see is, so all this kerfuffle starts with a simple tweet, and then at least half a dozen videos from other progressives or leftists online, all attacking us and calling us all sorts of names. So maybe you don't see that, so you think like, well, what is Cenk so upset about, right? So they call us all these names and they feel super proud about it, like, we are more pure. So then I fight back on Twitter, and then all of a sudden they're like, how could you insult us? We were just, all we were doing was punching you in the face. No, that's a right-wing position. You punch, then you gotta expect that I'm gonna counter, right? I don't mean you kid tested, I mean for folks who are out there, here, I'll name the name, Lance from the Serps. He's on here all the time on the power panel, right? And he comes out and does this like video about how he's so correct and, oh yeah, the young Turks, correct? No, Lance, you're not goddamn correct. Nobody elected you. The polling shows no one agrees with you. Your 12 buddies online, I don't care, okay? And say, oh yeah, I'm 100%, he's 99.95% correct. Oh, I'm gonna correct him. No. So don't, look, you wanna say, hey, I don't agree with you, God bless. You wanna say, Cenk, you shouldn't say anything back because you're being rude? Come on, brother or sister, I don't know what your
I just gotta be honest, I just don't really care to like collaborate with any other leftist ever again at this point.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at, because they come on the show, they build a name for themselves, and then they build a bigger name for themselves, trashing us as if they don't know who we are. As if they haven't worked with us, they don't know what our actual political values are. So I don't, Jake, I never want to talk about them again. I never want to address them again. It's a waste of time. There's important stuff going on in the country. Our personal drama with a bunch of leftists on Twitter doesn't matter.
All right, last thing I'm gonna say on it, because you brought it up, is that I'm not the kind of guy to back down. And just constantly saying that you are correct and I am incorrect is not 1% persuasive, not 1%. So sorry, that's my real opinions.
Elon.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to TYT. Anna and Cenk with you. Lots more to get to, and Cenk is gonna stop reading comments right now. So
William Bonner and We Dieter 72 just became members. We appreciate it. Hit the join button below. Guys, no. On Twitch, Hyphen8 says trans community are already afraid for their life. Good that someone on the right felt scared. No, not good. Not good. We don't sink to their level. Okay?
Do you guys think that you're gonna win anything by doing that? Like,
you're not gonna win.
But what's the plan, right? Like, but seriously, this is the debate that Cenk and I had, I don't know, a few weeks ago, where there's a difference between engaging in emotional releases, and I totally get that, right? I have definitely indulged in that quite a bit. But it doesn't actually accomplish anything. It's really about the person engaging in that emotional release and feeling good by doing so. But in terms of like thinking strategically in how we can successfully fight back against these abhorrent bills and laws that are being passed in red states, what we can do to protect transgender people and actually ensure that there are rights for them, healthcare rights, making sure that they're protected from these disgusting politicians. That matters. So what is the strategy? What is the plan? Because if the plan is we punch Nazis, okay, great, but that's not gonna win anyone over. That's not persuading anyone of anything.
And in fact,
I just don't get it. I don't get it.
It helps the right wing, it helps the Nazis.
It's all they talk about now. All they talk about is, oh, look at these violent transgender people. They're so violent. Why are you playing into their hands? How can anyone think that's a good idea? I just don't get it. But look, if you can admit to yourself that it feels good, so I'm gonna do it, okay, then at least you're being honest, and I agree with you. Like, agree with you in that you're doing it for an emotional release. But if you're doing that with a cover story about how you're fighting for transgender rights, you gotta understand that it's not actually gonna accomplish a damn thing. In fact, they're gonna use that violence as propaganda against the transgender community, which is exactly what's happening right now.
Super last thing. Violence is immoral and wrong in and of itself. And that is what every progressive activist, all the way through Martin Luther King Jr. has said forever and ever, Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, you name it. But second of all, guys, once the violence starts, the right wing has a massive advantage. They will out-violent us every time. Okay, so don't go down that path. It's an immoral and incorrect path. Okay, that's my 2 cents on it. Okay, you asked, I said it. All right, let's go.
The bromance between Elon Musk and Matt Taibbi is coming to an end. And this all culminated with Musk sharing private conversations with Matt Taibbi over Signal. Now, before we get to those messages that they exchanged, what prompted this whole fight, this conflict, this debacle? Well, it all started last week when Elon Musk decided to disable links to Substack on Twitter. Now, by disabling them, it didn't mean that a person couldn't post a Substack link, but what it did do was prevent people from being able to essentially like and retweet. It really limited or restricted Substack links. Now, the issue was over Substack launching a new feature on its platform known as Notes, and that feature happens to be kind of similar to Twitter's features. So the Substack Notes feature was announced by the co-founder of Substack on April 5th. He wrote, "Today we're announcing Substack Notes. Notes lets writers publish short form posts and recommend almost anything, quotes, links, images, and comments. It's coming soon and will look like this." Okay, and then you can see the imagery of what it'll look like. Now, Substack links, according to Mediaite, were limited on Twitter because they could no longer be retweeted or liked, and the embedding of tweets in Substack articles was interrupted. And what does that mean? Well, if you wanted to embed a tweet in one of your articles on Substack, you just wouldn't be able to do it, and you would get hit with this. This is what it would look like. Twitter has unexpectedly restricted access to embedding tweets in Substack posts. Our team is working to resolve this issue as soon as possible. Now, this enraged some pretty notable Substack writers, including Matt Taibbi, we'll get to in just a moment, Barry Weiss, Michael Schellenberger. Those names should be familiar if you've been following the Twitter Files story, because they also happen to be the handpicked, journalists that were chosen by Elon Musk to report on the Twitter Files, right? Now, Matt Taibbi was not happy about this, about the limitations for Substack links on Twitter. And he says, of all things, I learned earlier today that Substack links were being blocked on this platform. When I asked why, I was told it's a dispute over the new Substack Notes platform. Since sharing links to my articles is a primary reason I come to this platform, I was alarmed and asked what was going on. I was given the option of posting articles on Twitter instead. I'm obviously staying at Substack and will be moving to Substack Notes next week. I should also note that in his Substack, Matt Taibbi made it clear that he plans on leaving Twitter over this. Although, who knows if anything develops before he does. I mean, Musk might convince him not to, I don't know. Others like Brett Weinstein were also pretty upset with Elon Musk. He wrote, you know that thing where the left eats its own? Actually, I do, yes. We mustn't let that happen to the emerging Western values / free speech coalition. Many of us who have backed your Twitter play and taken substantial heat for it are thrown by this move. The public square isn't a monopoly. The thing is, when the public square is owned by one billionaire, the message tends to be monopolized, but I digress, Cenk.
Yeah, it's not a public square. I mean, this is the conversation we've had the whole time. So Elon Musk says, I can't believe the owners of Twitter are against free speech. And he's the one that, to be fair to the critics there, it made it seem as if it was a constitutional issue and that Twitter was a public square. And just like we told you guys, the minute he bought it, just like Donald Trump, he started excluding people from his platform because it's not a free speech issue and it's not a public square. He's the owner of that private company. So now the right wing's catching feelings because he's excluding them, just like we told you he would, B, he has every right to as the owner of it, and C, there is free speech. None of our constitutional rights, that includes the Second Amendment, includes the First Amendment, are unlimited. So the classic example is you can't shout fire in a crowded theater, right? So when you have a platform and you're running a platform, you're not the government, but even so, in fact, more so, there's a bunch of things you go, well, that's not a productive conversation. Oh, that guy's threatening violence. No, that's wrong. I don't want threats of violence on my platform. That makes sense, right? And then you make your own rules, and everyone that owns a platform makes their own rules. If you like those rules, stay with that platform. If you don't like the rules, then you move off that platform, okay? But this whole thing of like, I can't believe it, Elon Musk was supposed to be our savior. No, he's not your savior. He's a dude trying to make money off of you, okay? And it's not like he's a left-winger where we have principles and we care about people and we fight for people who we don't know, etc. He doesn't even claim that. He's just like, oh yeah. And guys, why did Elon Musk buy Twitter? He did it so he could manipulate markets. Okay, but hey, I know he's your hero until it turns out he isn't.
So let's move on to the Elon Musk blow up on Monday night because things got even worse. Now, in response to that Brett Weinstein tweet, he claimed that Substack links were never blocked, that Matt's statement is false. Substack was trying to download a massive portion of the Twitter database to bootstrap their Twitter clone, so their IP address is obviously untrusted. He also says, turns out Matt was an employee of Substack, which makes it seem as though he's accusing Matt Taibbi of being bought and paid for, which is fascinating because Matt Taibbi was accused of being bought and paid for by Elon Musk in being the first journalist chosen to do the Twitter files. Now, Chris Best, who's the CEO of Substack, responded to that saying, Matt Taibbi is not and has never been an employee of Substack. He writes a Substack and gets paid directly by his readers. Musk, though, later reversed course on his decision in regard to Substack links, making Substack links functional on Twitter once again. Although if you search for Substack on Twitter, you will not get Substack. You will get a weird response, results, including results for newsletter, which makes it pretty clear that this was like coded into the platform to prevent Substack links from coming up if you're searching for them. Anyway, but the feud wasn't over yet. So this is where it gets really good. So it starts with Michael Schellenberger posting an article, an article on Reason that Musk didn't like. So he writes, despite all the dismissive assertions from pundits, the Twitter files revealed a high level of coordination between tech companies, government agencies, and political figures. It is thanks to Musk and Taibbi that this is now apparent. And in the piece that was not written by Michael Schellenberger, it was written by someone else, it basically argues against what Elon Musk was doing with Substack links. This enrages Musk. Musk, for some reason, thinks the article is written by Schellenberger, even though it wasn't. He probably didn't even bother to really read it. And so he retaliated against Matt Taibbi by posting screenshots of their Signal exchange. So here it is.
Total child.
Total child, absolutely. And look, honestly, he accuses Taibbi of being a Substack employee. So it's more of that, like you're bought and paid for. Let's go to the next one. Okay, so this one's really interesting. So Matt Taibbi asks him, you're taking down all of my Twitter files threads because you're mad at me personally for not leaving the company where I was already employed, really? And it's like, look, I might disagree with Matt Taibbi on a lot of things these days, but he's not a dumb guy. It's kind of surprising that he's shocked by this. Like, how did you not see who Elon Musk really is? He is a child, he is juvenile, he has incredibly thin skin. I'm not surprised by any of this.
Yeah, look, classic douche move is sharing those private messages. Like, That's usually a pretty good sign of who's right and who's wrong, right? Not always, but often. So why are you sharing his private messages? Like that means, hey, we had our understanding that this was supposed to be private, but I'm gonna screw you, and I'm a bad guy, and I don't actually mean anything I say. Anyways, so look, Matt Taibbi's got his own issues. He's been pretty disappointing in a lot of ways
lately, yeah.
And that's we're disappointed because he used to be a great journalist, right? And so he went in this Glenn Greenwald route, but not full Greenwald. He didn't go full Greenwald. He's, as far as I can tell, he's not as much of an apologist for the right wing. Although then he does his Twitter files. But I know, Matt, like you probably, my guess is that they were so out in the wilderness when Elon Musk throws them a line, it was hard to resist going along with this charade. But come on, you're better than that, man. That stuff was so out of context, it was embarrassing. Anyway, and now what happens? Of course he throws you under the bus. Who'd you think he was? Did you think Elon Musk was the good guy? Okay, ridiculous.
All right, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back.
You know what the progressive movement needs? It needs a little energy, a little pizzazz, maybe a little caffeine. Oh, coffee. But what if it was Too Strong Coffee? Yes, new, toostrongcoffee.com/TYT. Look, this helps progressive causes. It's also organic and fair trade, so you've got peace of mind that it was done right, and it happens to taste great. So check it out right now at toostrongcoffee.com/TYT.
300 million is a pretty good number, Well, that's the size of the US population. You know what our next target is? The size of the entire world.
We just crossed 5 billion views on YouTube.
I mean, imagine 10 years ago thinking one day. We would have looked at you like, are you nuts?
Young Turks has just passed another milestone, 20 billion views.
Damn.
All right, lots of comments. You guys are the best.
I'm gonna read a few comments from our members.
Mr. Methuselah says on YouTube, super chat, thanks for all the important work you do for TYT for the movement.
Do you know who had the first super chat when I got back from vacation? You won't be surprised to find out. Billy B. Taylor. What do you know? Billy says, rejoice, for Dragon Daddy has returned.
This question sent to us by Izzy Sanchez Jr. Is it me, or is Meghan McCain talking as fast as Ben Shapiro? Is that the way the right tries to look smart and intellectual? Well, yes.
Michael Nathan writes it on Twitter. Did Anna choose Cenk's outfit today? I'm sure it wasn't Cenk himself. Man Bun Cenk and Skinny Jeans says, so now Anna has pointed out, okay, that's his handle.
T. Joyce, 1971, saying Donald Trump is good at pulling out of things, NAFTA, the Iran deal, NATO. It's just too bad Fred Trump didn't.
All right, let me do a little quick plug here. It's not even a plug, I'm bragging, okay? I'm bragging, watch me. We have a channel on YouTube, a whole channel devoted just to the Young Turks. It's badass, right? Wow, man. I can see the voice.
You guys are rock stars.
Unbelievable. Senator Sanders, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Man, you guys are amazing. We gave you what you wanted.
Okay. Speaking of shirts.
I have a surprise.
You reached a lot of people. You are the Young Turks. And we have spread that progressive message wide and far. Let's keep it going.
Here's what we do. We go beyond the headline. We are willing to engage in transparent conversations with those who do not think like me. We also make sure that you know what's happening not only nationally, but in your local area. Make sure you tune in to Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Monday through Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific Time.
Cool news, shoptyt.com now has books. There's a whole bunch of books there. You're gonna be shocked to find out that they're largely progressive. Of course! Ryan Grimm's book, We've Got People, is there. It's a fantastic story from Jesse Jackson to Bernie Sanders to AOC that explains the progressive movement probably better than any book I've ever read. Speaking of awesome books, my dad's got a book out called The Original Young Turk, where he goes from the poorest olive farmer you ever met in your life to living the American dream.
Back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Sharon Reddy, and Remy Starlight. They all just became new members by hitting the join button below on YouTube. We appreciate it. One thing that's guaranteed with us is honesty. So we appreciate all of you members that make that possible. Casper.
No Labels, which is a nonprofit that is heavily funded by billionaire investors and corporate executives, is now exploiting a campaign finance loophole to buy direct access to ballots nationwide. That's bad enough, but apparently they are considering launching a centrist third-party unity ticket for the 2024 election, which is making the Biden campaign nervous, Democrats nervous, because this could throw the presidential election. And it's probably the first time I've heard any corporate Democrat complain about money in politics. But nonetheless, this report from Lever News has more pretty incredible details. So Andrew Perez writes this: compared to moneyed groups' previous failed efforts to field alternate candidates, the No Labels initiative is more ambitious, secretive, and corrupt. Under the guise of bipartisan consensus, the corporate influence machine is buying its own national ballot line, funded by ultra-wealthy anonymous donors. The dark money component of this is another layer of disgusting. We'll get to that. But thanks to a 2010 court ruling, this is the loophole in campaign finance law, No Labels doesn't have to disclose anything about who's funding its campaign. It's also planning to employ a top-down candidate selection process. No Labels has indicated that candidates would be chosen by a group of people handpicked by the organization, which has close ties to corporate lawmakers like Senators Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, and Susan Collins. So finally, the goal is to put forward a national unity ticket. Though the group has said it would also back House and Senate candidates, the group plans to hold a nominating convention in Dallas in April of 2024.
Okay, so this is a trippy story because first of all, we got strange bedfellows. Both Third Way and Progressive Change Campaign Committee are against this. So if you don't know those players, Progressive Change Campaign Committee, Adam Green, et cetera, are good progressives. You know, during campaigns, maybe Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders disagree with each other, but solidly progressive, no question about it, right? Third Way, total corporate think tank, where they always say, hey, I've thought about it, and the corporate position is always right? And so those are the guys who buy off Democrats. So, and they are always fighting. The fact that they agree here is amazing, and there's a good reason for it, okay? So first, the other good news here is that this group is useless. So they could raise $1 billion, they could raise $1 trillion, but you're not gonna get the American people to vote for a milquetoast Republican plus Joe Manchin. Not gonna happen. Democrats don't want it, Republicans don't want it, no one wants it. It's totally, all the richest people in the world can get together and put that dream ticket together of two corporate douches, and no one wants it. The right wing doesn't want it and the left wing doesn't want it, okay? So then why is it relevant? And why is it the Third Way's against it, even those corporate guys? And I've seen a couple of critical mainstream media articles about it. And then Democratic leadership, no. All of a sudden, as Anna said, they're concerned about, did you guys know about money in politics? Did you know about dark money? You know, the one we've been using to defeat progressives this entire time? Mm-hmm. I just found out about it because somebody's using it against us. So what they're concerned about is that there isn't a single Republican that's gonna vote for douchey and douchey instead of Trump, because they love Trump, right? Mm-hmm. On our side though, people don't really love Biden, right? And now, unfortunately, some percentage of the Democrats have become like, where some percentage, a huge percentage were always corporate Democrats, but among the voters, right? Maybe some portion will go, oh yeah, moderate. I heard on CNN and New York Times that everybody's supposed to be moderate and Manchin's moderate. So it could peel away critical percentage points from Biden. And at this point, Biden is the more pro-corporate candidate. So that is why other corporations, mainstream media, the Democratic Party are going, whoa, 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 whoa. No, not this time, not this time. All other times we do the corporate agenda and we do the dark money, but this time, this might actually hurt us.
So let's talk about the loophole a little more, because I think that's an important thing to focus on in regard to how they're able to do this without having their nonprofit status taken away. Because remember, nonprofits aren't supposed to engage in politics this way. But there is a loophole, and here's what it is. As it gets involved in the 2024 election contest, no labels' strategy can be traced back to a 2010 court ruling and a subsequent 2014 Federal Election Commission decision that concluded nonprofits seeking to draft federal candidates are not considered political committees until they officially nominate a candidate. So basically, they can do all this tricky-pizzicky stuff behind the scenes, but as long as they don't announce that they're endorsing a specific candidate, they don't have to worry about violating certain campaign finance laws. They don't have to worry about violating the rules that pertain to nonprofits and their tax exempt status. So that's what they're taking advantage of. In practice, this means that dark money groups do not have to disclose their donors or their expenses as they work to procure ballot access around the country and consider potential candidates. Now, Brendan Fisher, who is a campaign finance lawyer and a deputy executive director at the watchdog group Documented, also told The Lever, quote, no labels can avoid registering with the FEC or disclosing its donors because it has not yet nominated a candidate and has been careful to say that it may not even nominate a candidate at all. That means that the public may never know who is behind the $70 million spending blitz that could reshape the 2024 election.
Yeah, it's funny that when corporate interests are worried that some of them have gone rogue and might actually hurt corporate interests, all of a sudden they're concerned about dark money, right? And all of a sudden they're concerned about loopholes. No, these loopholes and this dark money is a poison that has absolutely destroyed our democracy. Shoot, most of my book is about that. You can get it at tyt.com/justice, but explaining how these guys took over almost the entire Democratic Party, almost 100% of the Republican Party, and the press never even noticed it. Golly gee, oh my God, are there billions being spent? Oh my God, did they all come to us in the form of political ads? Well, we don't see the corruption at all. But the minute they think it might hurt corporate Democrats, all of a sudden, oh my God, this outrageous dark money. Okay, but The Lever, great reporting as always, and absolutely right. It is an outrage in this case and in all other cases as well.
All right, let's do one more story before we go to break. Unfortunately, we're gonna be hearing from Matt Gaetz.
4 people lost their lives in Kentucky and another 8 were injured. The shooter is dead as well. We, of course, want to take time to mourn the loss of innocent life, but we should not wait in acting to prevent these frequent aggressive acts from happening in the future. Democrats want to blame guns, of course, but we know it's not that simple. It's misguided even. Your grandparents used to be able to mail order automatic weapons. And when the Second Amendment was written, the American people, such as they were, could own cannons. No mass shootings back then.
Matt Gaetz, of course, a Republican lawmaker in the House, has decided to share his opinion on what should be done following yet another mass shooting, this time in Louisville, Kentucky, that killed 4 people. Now, it's important to know the details about that shooting and the shooter specifically, because he was a 23-year-old male who legally purchased his gun on April 4th in Kentucky that has incredibly lax gun laws. That's why he was able to legally buy his gun with no problems. Motive was not confirmed when we originally covered the story. Now it's become increasingly clear that after he found out that he was about to lose his job at the bank that he shot up, he decided to open fire at that bank. He had no criminal history, no indication of mental health issues or mental illness. And that's important context for you to know as we hear this lawmaker share his point of view. So let's go to the next video.
The Democrats are purposefully riling up their nutty shock troops in hopes that they will terrorize normal Americans into submission. Rand Paul was assaulted by his riled up neighbor. A congressional baseball practice was shot up by a riled up Bernie bro. You just heard the voicemail left from me, and more will come. It's the Democratic Party in Big Pharma that are unleashing the crazies on you, and nobody seems to have a solution for it.
Actually, there have been many solutions, including funding mental health care. Single-payer healthcare system would actually solve a lot of our societal ills, but we can't do that. By the way, when it comes to funding mental health care, I believe Matt Gaetz had the opportunity to vote in favor of allocating the resources for that, but didn't choose to vote yes on that bill. So not at all concerned about mental health care. They love to invoke the need for mental health care after a mass shooting, but they never mean it. And why is he bringing up political violence when this mass shooting had nothing to do with political violence at all? At all. Cenk.
Yeah, well, I mean, it gets worse than that, but there's a lot to cover here. So first off, he says, oh my God, look at all this violence from the left. The softball shooting, that's true, that one is, okay? Then the Rand Paul beating, that one wasn't political at all.
It was a feud with his neighbor.
Yeah, it was his neighbor. His neighbor's in Kentucky is probably Republican. It was not 1% political, okay? So that's just made up. Number two, number three, he said, I got a voicemail. Oh, did you, Matt? Okay, people on the left get hundreds, sometimes thousands of threats, physical threats, death threats, etc. Matt Gaetz has never given a damn. But he gets one and he's like, oh my God, did you guys know that there's violence? Hey, Matt, aren't you the one that said that people should grab their guns and maybe use their Second Amendment rights against people? That's a direct call for violence against your political opponents. And now all of a sudden you're concerned because you got one voicemail. Like, by the way, you shouldn't send that voicemail to them. Death threats from either side is stupid and you shouldn't do it and it's immoral, okay? But did Matt Gaetz ever say that to his own side? Like I just did. I've said it 1,000 times on the show. Did Matt Gaetz ever? No, he egged his own side. Oh yes, Second Amendment rights, make sure, and look what he does here. He's like, oh, we got these mental health problems. Well, first of all, you guys don't fund mental health, so you're full of crap. But that's not why he's saying it, because the new right-wing talking point is trans people all have mental health issues. We should take away their guns, and now Matt Gaetz is suggesting we should lock them up and put them in insane asylums.
Yeah, he's
lunatic. No, Matt, you're the lunatic.
Okay, so let's go to that portion of his argument. And I just despise that he's saying this. I'll explain why when we come back. Let's watch.
We need to reopen the asylums. There are severely mentally ill people who do not have a right to wander our streets seeking and selecting who they are going to terrorize. Whether there is criminal culpability or not, there is a permanent element of society that is dangerous. And it does not make us more just or more compassionate to have them walking amongst the rest of us. Because then you see the type of loss of life that we've seen too frequently from these acts of violence. Now, subject to due process, of course, in our Constitution, we have to put some people away. And that might not be politically correct to say, but it is the truth that we encounter, especially in a world in which we're getting so many people chemically addicted. Good people have a right to exist in the country without wondering if some crazy leftist or mentally ill individual lurking around the corner is about to post up and kill you.
So what he's saying there is just completely contrary to what needs to happen in the country, because we do have problems with mental health that goes undiagnosed, untreated. We see it on the streets all the time. It's incredibly cruel. I can't even tell you guys how many times I have driven to work and there is an elderly person on the freeway, walking in the middle of the freeway because they have mental health issues and are not getting the help they need. They absolutely do need the help. And sometimes, unfortunately, they don't have the ability to consent to the treatment. So they might have to be institutionalized even without consenting to it in extreme cases. I agree with that point of view. But with Matt Gaetz saying that, the way he's saying it, politicizing it to make it seem as though his political opponents need to be held against their will because they're so dangerous and such a threat to society, first of all, is terrifying and runs counter to policies that we actually do need to help those with severe mental health issues.
It's the most counterproductive thing you could imagine if you cared about the things that even Matt Gaetz says he pretends to care about. So look, do we have to have better funding of mental health facilities? Yes. And then if you want to get into a conversation about, hey, when someone's on meth, fentanyl, et cetera, they're in the street, what do we do, voluntary, involuntary, et cetera? That's an important public policy debate to have, but you can't have it anymore because Matt Gaetz says, oh yeah, let's open up the facilities so I can lock up all my political opponents, including trans people. Well, now you can't have that debate because you just politicized it, and now I'm not gonna open up a gulag for you, Matt Gaetz.
I know,
you idiot.
This is why this is why the country overall, based on what I've seen firsthand, fails in ever engaging in any kind of discussion in a nuanced way. The reason why we have black and white thinking is because we have two extremes, right? And look, I don't want to equate the extreme left to the extreme right. The extreme right is on a whole nother level. I don't hear people on the extreme left arguing that we should imprison our political opponents because they're so dangerous and violent, making broad generalizations about whole swaths of people. But when you hear someone like Matt Gaetz say what he just said, understandably, those broadly on the left are gonna have a knee-jerk reaction to any good faith argument that sometimes you do need to institutionalize people for their health, honestly, for their safety, because you're automatically gonna think of what Matt Gaetz said. I hate these people so much. That's why we get nothing done in the country.
And they want to make the issues cloudier because when you say, hey, look, to the point that Anna made about locking people up. Hey, here's 5 different laws that Donald Trump seems to have broken. And if you think that he didn't break those laws, good, let's debate it and let's see. And I don't want anyone being put away for political reasons. I hate that. And that would destroy our democracy. Then if Matt Gaetz said, oh yeah, the shooter in the softball case that liked Bernie Sanders, he should be locked up.
Yeah, I agree.
I say, of course, of course he should be locked up.
Absolutely.
Like, we're not right wingers. If we were right wingers, we'd go, oh, no way, man, no way, it was self-defense. It was self-defense, and he's allowed to exercise Second Amendment rights, right? No, we don't say that because we're honest. You show a crime and we say, yeah, lock that guy up, that's a crime, right? But when you say, oh, I don't like these people walking around us, amongst us, what is that? That's generally, I don't like the left, I don't like, and he's partly referring to trans people here because of the shootings.
No, I mean, and he also says, he mentions people who, I forget the exact wording, but he mentions people who are like chemically addicted, I guess, or on.
Yeah.
You know what they're talking about.
Of course, and so, and if the left said, hey, let's lock up random right wingers, of course I'd say no, right? But the right wing does not, they just don't think that way. And guys, all right, last thing. He says, oh, I'm worried about the shooters. I mean, look at Kentucky. Wait, what do you mean? The guy in Kentucky had, as far as we know, had no mental health issues other than being a mass murderer. They all have the same mental health issue in that regard, right? And he was a white male. What are you talking about? They're like, oh yeah, did you know there's 2 trans shooters? Did you know there's hundreds of white male shooters? Male Christian shooters? Young male shooters? Hundreds of them. If we used anything like Matt Gaetz's logic, we'd have had all the white males in the country locked up a long time ago. Oh, they're all nuts, they're all lunatics. Let's put them into loony bins, right? But not based on my logic, based on Matt Gaetz's logic. Oh, these guys are doing shootings, let's lock them up. Then Matt, we need to lock all of your asses up. But we don't think that way because we're not monsters like you. We don't want to put people in prison for disagreeing with us politically. The right wing is super dangerous. They just don't believe in democracy.
All right, Nikki Haley attacks Donald Trump when we come back.
All right, back on TYT. Well, this is an interesting one. History Speaks says, Jenkin, especially Anna, I may be your one unironic right-leaning fan, not hard right, of course. I certainly reject the stigmatizing of consensual sex, abortion is murder, and rigged election craziness of that faction. Is anyone else out there? Well, it's a good question, History Speaks. Now, some people are saying they're right-wingers that watch us. I don't know if that's true or untrue. I do know that there's a ton of right-wingers former right-wingers who wrote in saying, no, after listening to you guys, I realized, no, you're the rational ones. And so, look guys, there's so much lies in the rest of the media. I don't blame people for being confused. So like, oh, who's right, Fox News or CNN? It's a trick question, neither, okay? So anyways, for whatever it's worth, History Speaks, the fact that you're even open-minded and listening to the other side is amazing. So credit to you on that one. Samantha Toder says, thank you for your decisive commentary on a lot of these less than black and white issues. I have to reference Dr. Martin Luther King, who understood that violence was not a viable path for success. That's certainly right, Samantha. Thank you for writing in about that. Let's go to YouTube members. Vitingale says, TYT interviewed Matt Gaetz on election night. This is why you don't give liars and bigots a microphone. I don't agree. And so one, obviously we had him on, so by definition I don't agree. But number two, if you watch that interview, I think about the only outlet that got right in his grill about the underage sex allegations. And I don't know what Matt Gaetz thought he was coming on for. He came on and he thought he was gonna bully us by talking about my election, etc. And they seemed genuinely shocked when we brought up the most obvious thing in the world. Guys, you have to understand, the rest of the press is so soft. So that's why guys like Matt Gaetz have no idea when they come on the show. Like Joe Manchin, he came on the show. I gave him a microphone, then I asked him, hey, it seems like you always vote with your top 10 donors. Here's your list of top 10 donors. And you know what he said? He said, Jenks, I don't even know who my donors are. I see, that's a hilarious lie, right? And then you got him on tape on a lie. So anyways, Stereo Dragon Daddy 6 says, thank you, Jenk, because you read my comment last night and my kids think I'm famous. Well, who's to say you're not? Stereo Dragon Daddy 6, okay? Haunted Dragon says, I would not be able to explain this like TYT. You guys are awesome. Thank you for all you do. Thank you, appreciate that. Ominous Heat says, how do I make a house on Minecraft? First, find the nuclear secrets. Well, these days, that's a funny joke, but it's kind of true. Yuri Lino on Twitch says, I love Jenk and Anna so much, I honestly don't even want to think about what I would have done if TYT sold out. I think I would have been overtaken by nihilism, definitely depressing, but TYT has integrity, and I love TYT like family. Well, we love you guys too. And it's not glib, it's 100% real. There's nothing without the members, so we appreciate your support. All right, back on TYT, Jenk, Anna, Vonen Voff, Tyler Wilson, and Michelle R. Caban. So you guys are amazing. Thank you for joining. We appreciate it. You can do that by either hitting the join button below the video on YouTube or tyt.com/join. Thank you for supporting us. Casper.
Nikki Haley, she's still running for president. She's still running for the Republican nomination. And she's finally realized, maybe I do need to kick to the side because this story is incredible. So, Nikki Haley, through her campaign manager, has finally decided to go after Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis, who still hasn't announced that he plans to run for president, although he's expected to very soon. Now, Nikki Haley did not directly go after Donald Trump, but her campaign manager, Betsy Ankney, decided to do so. And so she wrote in a donor memo released yesterday, quote, Donald Trump had a pretty good Q1 if you count being indicted as good. So Q1, first quarter, absolutely love it. But there was more. She claims like, look, we don't like this politicized prosecution, okay? The sensationalized partisan prosecution in Manhattan understandably made Republicans more sympathetic to the former president. It is an outrageous prosecutorial abuse. Still, it's increasingly clear that Trump's candidacy is more consumed by the grievances of the past and the promise of more drama in the future rather than a forward-looking vision for the American people. I like it. I like it.
It's a beginning, but I think it's still very mild. It's slightly kicking to the side, whatever the hell that means.
I don't kick to the side, I kick forward.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Okay. I think she realized after many people dunked on her for that line that no, you're running in a Republican primary. What do you mean you're not gonna kick to the side? You gotta win the primary first. I think she's realized.
Bernie Sanders? Okay.
No, come on, relax.
Okay. Well, look, I love Bernie, but he should have kicked to the side during the primaries. Anyways, back to the Republicans. So you think you're gonna win with this? No. Okay, I like it. It's a good start, but Chris Christie had the better way to go during the week.
Did he? Where's Chris Christie now?
No. I don't mean in 2016 where he humiliated himself.
Oh, you mean what now?
Yeah, over the weekend. Look, let me tell you his line. His line was one that I suggested, not to him, but I'm just saying overall. No. The only way to beat Trump is to say, look, this guy lost to Biden. He's like the only Republican who could lose to Biden, who's like 200 years old, right? Like we could all beat him. We could all beat him super easy.
It's a big lie.
Yeah, except Trump, right? Trump's the guy who lost to Biden.
That's a good point.
And the reason why that's persuasive potentially is because people go, oh yeah, Republican voters go, oh yeah, Biden sucks. Oh man, Trump lost to him. We're risking it if we go with Trump. Now, that presumes that Republicans are mentally stable, because remember, half of them think that Trump actually won and that Biden stole it with undocumented immigrants and fraud and all that stuff, and then launched a riot against himself. So those guys you're never gonna convince, right? Because they'll say, what do you mean? Trump beat him by 400 million votes, right? But for the half that are convincible, and there is some percentage, we saw it in Georgia, we saw it in the Senate elections in 2022, I can see them going, yeah, I don't wanna lose to Biden again. And so that's a much better approach than this, which is like, well, we think that what the Democrats have done to poor Donald Trump is really unacceptable. At the same time, we are slightly perturbed by Donald Trump. Not good enough, weak sauce.
But I mean, the whole thing about taking jabs at him over being indicted, that line was pretty good. Yeah. By the way, I am not on team Nikki Haley. Like,
of course
but
not.
No, but like, we're in this current political climate where you literally have to spell things out because people will just assume like, oh, she said something positive about a campaign strategy that Nikki Haley's campaign is trying out. She must be a right winger, but I'm not. So, but I do like the infighting. It's fun. We should enjoy it. Why should the left be the only group that engages in infighting? Let's see it with the right. Too.
But again, I'm actually not completely with you on this, because so I hear you. It's fun. There, I'm 100% with you. But guys, remember, in 2016, the Republicans had a mess of a primary. They fought like crazy, started talking about penis size.
It was super fun, yeah.
And guess what happened though? They won.
They did.
Okay, in 2020, the Republicans don't have any messy primary. They have their incumbent. It's Democrats have a messy primary, kind of. But at least it was a loud primary, lots of people in it, lots of press coverage, and guess what happened? The Democrats won. So primaries and messy primaries are actually kind of great because it gets you a better candidate at the end, hopefully, kind of, most of the time. And it gets your message out. It gets your message out from 8 different people or 20 different people at once. And so I wish the Democrats would have a similar primary. So if the establishment tries to shut up everyone on the left, Marianne Williamson or whoever else decides to run going forward, that's a disaster. Everyone should be kicking sideways.
So she also went after Ron DeSantis through her campaign manager. Again, Nikki Haley is still trying to keep her powder dry, weirdly. But she writes, Ron DeSantis essentially launched his presidential campaign with a national book tour during this period and made one misstep after another, confirming what many observers have long suspected. he's not ready for prime time.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I know that you got to work on that a little bit.
No, they're so weak. I mean, look at how weak Nikki Haley is. She's sending her campaign spokesperson to do the attacking. Oh, you're gonna let her be president too? Okay. No, you got to do what Trump did in 2016. Get in there and just start punching people in the face. My God, you're a Republican. Republicans love punching people in the face. Like, you're not gonna win that primary with, oh, I had my campaign spokesperson say, kick a little bit sideways and say that Ron DeSantis is not ready for prime time. No, that ain't gonna cut it. So definitely not gonna cut it on the Republican side. Go and start punching people in the face politically and do it yourself, Nikki Haley. Otherwise, okay, I get it. You want labor secretary or transportation secretary. Go ahead and warm that seat up.
Now, finally, I don't know why this shocked me. It's just the amount of money that gets thrown around during the election cycles blows my mind. But Nikki Haley raised a lot of money, right? So Trump's former ambassador, that's Nikki Haley, to the United Nations raised $11 million in the final 6 weeks of the first 2023 quarter. Haley's fundraising haul is more than Donald Trump raised in his first quarter in this race, and more than nearly all the Republican presidential candidates in 2016 raised in their first quarter, her campaign manager wrote, which the comparison to 2016 isn't a good look because, as we have seen, each election cycle usually consists of massive increases of corruption and money being thrown around. So I don't think that says anything. But I do think it is interesting that Nikki Haley raised that much money in one quarter. Like, blows my mind.
Yeah, that tells me a couple of things. Number one, Republican donors are really sick of Donald Trump. They're like, I don't know, Nikki Haley's in the race. Let's just give her money, but you can't be Donald Trump. He's too unstable. We need someone stable like Nikki Haley who's just gonna give us the keys to the car and we're gonna do whatever the hell we want, just like the good old days when corporate Republicans and corporate Democrats won. Now, it's not that Trump would do better with the car. Trump would immediately crash the car, right? And that's part of the reason they're against him.
I'm the best driver.
Yeah.
I drive very well.
But the second thing that it tells me is the donors think, oh, she's making it in the cabinet. So even if she loses the presidency, which she almost certainly will, the nomination, hey, look, man, maybe I'm a railroad company and I'm gonna crash all my
derail all my
trains and have these giant mushroom clouds. It helps to grease these politicians. I mean, when the companies did it for Buttigieg, when he became transportation secretary, he let him off the hook on everything. And trust me that Nikki Haley will do likewise.
But I think that you're really being unfair to Nikki Haley and how fierce a fight she's putting up in this election. And you're gonna see how fierce that fight is in the next video.
Let me go back to my original question though, because anybody that is looking or seeking a nomination, you're going to be comparing and contrasting your policy positions, your views, what direction you want to take the country with your competitors. Right now, there's former President Trump is the only other candidate for the nomination. We expect many others, maybe even Mike Pompeo, who was on earlier in the program today. Where do you see, if you see, policy differences beyond what you mentioned, which are generational differences? What specific policy areas would you say part with Donald Trump?
What I am saying is I don't kick sideways. I'm kicking forward. Joe Biden is the president. He's the one I'm running against. And what I'm saying is you don't have to be 80 years old to be president.
Fierce.
So that was from earlier. She's getting more fierce by sending her assistant to the assistant out there to say something.
It's the campaign manager, be fair.
Okay, anyway, I love that clip so much because it's deer meat headlights.
Totally, it's not deer meat headlights. It's the look of fear in her face as Hannity is like asking the questions. Like she knows the direction it's going and she's like, she starts with a smile.
Oh, that's
watch, and then slowly, oh no.
It's so true. It's so true.
Oh no, please stop.
Oh, wow.
Please stop.
Oh God, that's hilarious. The fake smile was already funny to begin with. And then when the fear came into her eyes, it was awesome. But look, we're the fairest show in America. That's the first good question Sean Hannity's ever asked. Hey, what's the policy difference between you and Trump? pretty good question. And of course, she didn't answer it.
We got to take a break. When we come back, George Santos, really concerned about toilet paper. That and more coming up.
All right, let's go to YouTube members. Haunted Dragon says, coming soon, Nikki Haley insults from Snowflake Trump any minute. Oh, for sure. She has her campaign spokesperson say like, oh, sometimes he doesn't pick the right flowers. He's gonna come back with, she's brown, she's from a troublesome part of the world called India, okay?
Yeah.
And we can't have it. In fact, we should start a war against India.
I hate that you went to something gross and bigoted, because like, when I think of Trump's insults, it's always like, yes, he goes in the bigoted route oftentimes, but sometimes it's like such petty garbage. So I was hoping you would pick something like that.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anything.
Yeah, trust me, I wouldn't be interested, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, totally. That's 100% who Trump is. It disgusts us, but politics has become a blood sport and a reality show. And it's because I think voters have kind of given up on politics actually materially improving their lives. So it's like, let's just get what we can get out of it, which is the entertainment value.
Yeah,
so
and Republicans love the blood sport. So then this ain't gonna cut it, okay? Anyway, Barry Motiva kids around. Nikki makes Trump tremble in his boots. Vincent Morales says, wow, Anna looks amazing. Brad David.
Wait, what?
Just says, wow, Anna looks amazing, that's all.
Thank you.
That's what you wanted to say.
You just like sped through that.
I did.
You gotta let me
it's not
savor
that
it.
important. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Michael Gonzalez says, think tanks are an oxymoron. Yes, chapter 4 of my book, you'll see that Lewis Powell came up with the idea of think tanks and said we should have basically fake scholars pretending that corporations are right about everything. And then they did for 50 straight years, and the press has been quoting them like, oh, there's a very important think tank. Oh, well, look at that. They concluded the corporations were right again. There's a lot of good thinking there, okay? And of course, they don't tell you how biased those think tanks are and who funds them. So you're absolutely right.
They're just front groups for lobbyists. That's literally what they are.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 liberal think tanks or progressive think tanks. Outside of that, it's all corporate trash. That's literally the whole point of it. TYT.com/justice to pre-order the book. Okay. Injustifiable on Twitch says, kick sideways towards obscurity, please. Progressive Canuck says, how dare Substack copy the great inventor of Twitter, Elon Musk?
I know.
Right? The idea of sending short messages online. Wow, shame. Like, yeah, Elon, you came up with that, right? So I love that point.
I have a confession. I kind of love Substack. So like I follow Ken Klippenstein on there, Jordan Uhl. Jordan Uhl needs to post more often, in my opinion. Just saying.
Well,
but
he's
yeah,
un-American. That's fine.
But yeah, a lot of good stuff.
Okay, Sarah Avocadorable subscribed on Twitch. We appreciate it. Using Prime, if you have Amazon Prime, it's free for you guys. TYT.com/Prime. T Samiwa gifted a tier 1 sub. Progressive B gifted a tier 1 sub. You guys are awesome. And Ashura Zumi in the member section said, we have a place already up and running where we put the mentally unstable. It's called Congress. $100 Blue Apron gift card. Back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and I want to thank Artem Kazantsev, just gifted 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. I love when you guys look out for each other. All right, Casper.
George Santos, he's back. Well, he never left, but Beside me, you see an image of George Santos. No, I'm just kidding. But George Santos, Republican lawmaker, freshman lawmaker, has a reputation for being a liar, but now he can enjoy a reputation for being one of the most gullible members of Congress because he is convinced that Democrats are seeking to ban toilet paper. So he writes via Twitter, Republicans are working to put Americans first and lower the cost of living, are they? But he says Democrats are busy trying to ban toilet paper and gas stoves. We can't pretend politics doesn't affect our lives. We need to remind politicians that they work for we the people. Hashtag people over politics. Deep. So who's trying to ban toilet paper? Let me see, approximately no one. It was an April Fool's joke that he fell for. So before I tell you how this all came about, you wanna jump in, Cenk?
Yeah, look, so I get a little annoyed that the press goes, oh my God, did you know George Santos is a liar and Donald Trump is a liar? Because I got news for you, they're almost all liars, okay? So the press says, no, all the rest of them are saintly. Like Mitch McConnell and Joe Manchin and Nancy Pelosi would never tell a lie, right? But we found the liar, it's George Santos. So that's my pet peeve, right? But there is a real reason why they pick Santos as opposed to everyone else. One, of course, they want to cover up the corporate lies of the others, but for Santos, he's too over the top, brother.
No, it goes, I think it's more than that, okay? For some reason, I feel like corporate media, along with the establishment, get more offended over lies on your resume than lies you tell the American people in the context of politics.
That's such a brilliant point. I hadn't thought of that. Because that bothers them on a personal level.
Yes.
Like, oh, what? I could have just pretended I worked at those banks, and then I could have been it's the elites, and they're catching feelings.
But let's keep it real, right? A lot of these elites went to fancy schools.
Yes.
And so when someone else lies on their resume and works their way up, in this case, politics, I don't know, it seems to offend them more. And I do agree that it's more about how it offends them personally, and it shows, because when you think about all the politicians who lie to the American people on a regular basis, all the politicians who lie in reporters' faces or show hosts' faces live on national TV, really the resume thing is what upsets you the most?
Yeah, and so look, but again, to be fair to the mainstream media, which we're the fairest show in America, okay?
I never thought I would hear that line from Luger. Okay.
So, but hold, okay? So like everybody's saying the gas stove thing, I'm gonna come back to that, right? But nobody's saying the toilet paper thing. So that's like a Santos special, right? He's like, I'll pick this one literally out of my ass. Oh, the Democrats are trying to ban toilet paper.
Listen, I would maybe believe it. Maybe I'd be more primed to believe that if Democrats were being funded by Big Bidet. But that's not happening.
Big bidet. Okay, so listen.
Yeah. Okay, here's what happened though. I gotta tell them how this came. So it was an April Fool's joke by a city council member by the name of Eric Boucher, I think. So here is the tweet in question. We are banning toilet paper, paper towels, Kleenex, and other single-use paper products in New York City. If anyone can pull this off, it's New Yorkers. And so he fell for that. And then later, the city council member basically dunked on George Santos. Let's go to graphic 4 here. Our request to ban toilet paper may have gone too far. Quote tweeted George Santos. Okay.
Yeah, so look, Santos also not that bright. So like if I heard that the Republicans were gonna ban toilet paper, I'd be like, are you sure? Like Santos hears it goes, of course they are. Here we go, we're writing it down, we're tweeting it. Okay, but guys, think about it though. All right, so it's outrageous that he added toilet paper, which is an April Fool's joke. But he also said gas stoves, which the majority of Republicans are saying, which is just as big a lie.
Is it?
Why do you say that?
That's because no one, look, let's just keep it real. Of course, not a single Democratic lawmaker has proposed banning gas stoves.
Yeah.
Are we really gonna pretend like we're not headed in that direction?
Well, I don't think that that's right. No, so you're saying because it's carbon and fossil fuels, and so
yeah, we're definitely gonna head in that direction. Yeah.
Oh yeah, if you say eventually, look guys, we got to get off of fossil fuels and we got to go to solar energy. So you might have a stove that's not powered by gas, but it's powered by something else. But we'll do a normal, healthy transition. You're not going to go stoveless, right? We're not going to take away your stoves. No, I'm serious. You think we're gonna take? I'm not agreeing to taking away anybody's stoves, okay, or air conditioning, etc. But there is a more sustainable way to do it. If we had a rational country, we would get there through a transition program, right? And it is definitely true that there is no Democrats that have said, let's go snatch up gas stoves. So that's kind of an invented talking point. So, but that
the building I live in currently, in our latest meeting about like where to spend the money, how to spend the money, blah, blah, blah. We're pretty soon California is going to phase out gas vehicles. And so we need charging stations for every single unit, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You think the government's gonna help us with that? Government's not gonna help us with that, okay? So like this is the thing that kind of annoys me a little bit about the way Democrats handle these discussions, because they tend to forget how much of an economic burden these transitions happen to be when they don't help. And then when they turn around, they're like, no, we'll maybe give you some, tax incentives. I don't want tax incentives. If you're gonna phase out major technology for climate change, which I agree with, without actually doing anything about the fossil fuel companies and the drilling and all of that stuff, fine, but you need to actually help people out financially in making these transitions.
Well, two things, Anna. Well, number one, I think the government is supposed to help you with that. They just passed a massive infrastructure bill that was supposed to help in transitioning, especially towards electric vehicles. Now, is it entirely possible that once you dive into the details of that bill, that almost all the money goes to giant corporations and none of it trickles down to us? Well, that would be very normal, okay? So, but did the Democrats sell the bill as, yes, it would help you transition to electric vehicles? Of
course they sold it that way.
Of course they did, right?
Yeah.
Is there some provisions in there for that? Yes, there are provisions in there. Will it be effectively executed? Who knows? It's, and so I wouldn't get. But guys, and Anna, when you say like gas stoves, hamburgers, and planes, those are all three made up things. Like there is no Democratic proposal to ban any of those. So you can say, hey, listen.
The hamburger thing is especially ridiculous. No one's banning hamburgers or meat. People are still consuming meat. We still have major factory farms doing their thing with meat. What were the other things you mentioned?
Planes and gas stoves.
Yeah, look, I think eventually there's gonna be policy proposed by Democrats on gas stoves specifically. The thing about planes, I haven't even heard anything about that from Republicans.
Well, look, if they propose a policy that says, okay, we're gonna take away all your gas stoves and we're not gonna help you at all, and we're just gonna come into your house and rip it out and then impose all the costs on you, well, then we'll say no, like we'll fight against it. It's not like we're not known to oppose the left from time to time when we don't agree, right? So, but no one has proposed that. No one has proposed that. So, all right, here I'll give you one that for whatever reason, I suspect you'll find less offensive. So, look, the mainstream media all say that when these politicians take billions of dollars in money, that it's not corruption, that it doesn't affect them. Well, that's a bigger lie than the toilet paper lie, the gas stove lie, or any other lie, right? But that money goes straight into the mainstream media. That goes into ads on TV and newspapers and a little bit of radio. So those guys have a vested interest in that lie, so they never call out the politicians based on that, right? And Joe Manchin voted based on his own coal company interest, his fossil fuel donor interest. And by the way, to be fair there, that was a very, very rare instance where the New York Times actually said, hey, Joe Manchin, turns out he has fossil fuel donors. We never knew, we just found out in our investigative piece. But hey, I'll take it. So my point is, almost all the politicians lie about the most important things, which is who both bought their votes and why they vote the way that they do. It has nothing to do with ideology or principles. It has everything to do with bribery and corruption. So when they catch feelings over Santos because they feel like, oh, I could have had a better career if I lied like him, right, to Anna's point. Yeah, okay, good, beat up on Santos, he deserves it. Same with Trump. But boy, it'd be nice if you did journalism about the other politicians too.
Okay, we can agree on that for sure. In the bonus episode for our members, I want to continue talking about the gas stove situation.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, you got me a little surprised there, but God bless. What else we got in the bonus episode?
In the bonus episode, we're also going to talk about senior citizens who I love and adore, and they make my heart feel warm and cuddly. So just this awesome story about two 81-year-old best friends who decided to go on an adventurous trip, 80-day trip together, and then some testimony from senior citizens about what it's been like to grow old and how they feel about the direction of the country, while experiencing what it was decades ago and what it's become today.
All right, love it. Real quick, Marv2324 just became a member. We appreciate it. And you could hit the join button below to get the bonus episode Anna's talking about, or tyt.com/join. Iacom Taser 1 Road. This is my first year with an electric stove and it rocks. Okay, electric snow road and free bidets for everyone. I'm all for it. In Justify, man, that's gonna be a theory. Like people are like, oh, free bidets. No, we just made it up. We made it up. Okay, in Justify, if we were right wingers, people are like, no, that's it. It's happening. Okay, anyway, Injustifiable says kick sideways towards obscurity, please. And Occam's Taser 1 says DeSantis ended his campaign with his book tour. Might be. All right, members, we'll see you in a minute.
Indisputable has been named the fastest growing news TV show in the United States of America. Compared to all shows on CNN, MSNBC,